This video is working out examples from Pizzazz 11.6. And we're just going to pick maybe 2 from each block. So we'll just start with this one. Let's do 5 and 2. Okay. All right. So number 2, we'll start with that one. 5 to the negative third power. Well, if that's my only problem, I have to remember to put it over 1 so I can actually look at it like a fraction. Because it is going to be a fraction. Anytime that you have a negative exponent, you're either going to have a fraction as an answer or it's already written in fraction form. So this is going to get moved to the denominator. If you have not watched the notes on this yet, you need to watch them. So we're going to move this down. And then there's nothing left in the numerator, but there always is a 1, so we're going to write that. Notice that it just flips it. You know, that's really what's happening at this moment. Because the 1, there's a 1 up here, but this one looks like it's gone away, but it really hasn't. It's just been multiplied by 5 to the third. So we have 5 times 5 times 5. And if you put that in your calculator, or you can do it in your head, it's 125. So my answer is 1 over 125. And that would be M. All right, number 5 says negative 12 raised to the negative 2. I'm going to put it in fraction form over 1, and I'm going to move. And if you want a highlighter, I have highlighters. Just ask for one. I'm going to move all of this to the denominator. But don't forget, the only thing that loses its negative is the exponent. So it's still going to remain negative 12, but now it'll be raised to a positive 2 instead of a negative 2. Then I keep the 1 on the top, and I work it out. So whatever negative 12 times negative 12 is, because I have 2 of them, then that'll be my answer. And like I said, you can use your calculator, or maybe you already know your 12s. 12 times 12 is 144, and negative 12 times negative 12 is also 144. All right, so it's 1 over 144, and it would not be the negative 1. This answer here, that is not it. Ours will be positive for this problem because these 2 negatives canceled each other out. All right, let's go to the next block. Let's try, we'll do 14. And let's do the first one, number 9. So we're going to do 9. The difference between number 5 and number 9, let's look at them for a minute. Notice that 5 had parentheses and 9 does not. So that's going to change everything. And I'll show you what I mean. We're still going to put this over 1, and everything still moves. But we can actually move, like this is really a negative 1 times 4 if you want to think of it like that. So let's keep the negative 1 up there, and we'll move the 4 to the negative third. If it's not in parentheses, like number 5, if it's not in parentheses, then the negative doesn't move down. Like it's not negative 12 being raised to the second power. Like this one is, but this is not negative 4. The negative is actually detached. Only if it was in the parentheses would the negative be being raised to the negative 3 as well. Without parentheses, this negative is actually detached from the 4, and it can stay on the top. Now that might be confusing, but think about it for a second. Only things that are in parentheses are being raised to the whole power. If it's not in parentheses, then this is actually a separate number. Only the 4 is being raised to the negative 3rd power. Whoops. When I rewrite it, I need to change it to a positive 3. So I have negative 1 over 4 times 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is 64. So I have 64 in my denominator. I can leave it like this, or I can move the negative to the bottom, or I can move the negative out front, which I'm sure is how they wrote it. Because normally they leave the negative out to the front, and they don't attach it to either the numerator or the denominator. And they did. So here it is. Notice how the negative is out front, and that is fine. Okay, number 14. So we have negative 75 being raised to the negative 1. Notice there's no parentheses. So that negative is going to stay where it is. You don't need to take it with you when you move this 75 down. So the 75 now will be raised to the 1st power, and that negative 1 will stay up there. So I have negative 1, and anything to the 1st power is just itself back. So I have negative 1 over 75, and I'm going to rewrite it the way that they wrote it, probably, with the negative out front. And there it is. Okay, let's try 2 from the 3rd block. All right, let's do, we'll do 3 from here. We'll do 17. Let's start with 17. So it says 7ab to the 0. Well, the question is, what is being raised to the 0 power? If it looked like this, then my answer would have been 1, all of it. But it didn't look like that. Only the b is being raised to the 0 power. So only the b turns into a 1. But 7a stays the same way. So 7a times 1 is just going to give you 7a back. So my answer is actually 7a. All right, let's do, we'll do 21. And we have 2x cubed y to the negative 8th. I'm going to highlight what needs moved. Only the y is being raised to a negative. I got to put all of this over 1. So notice that this does not move. This is good the way it is. So 2x cubed is going to stay, and y to the 8th is going to move. And that is it. We don't need to do anything else. And there it is, M. Let's do 19. So we have 7 over ab to the negative 4. All right, the question is, what is being raised to the negative 4? Is it both a and b, or is it just b? And it is just b. Without parentheses, only this part is being raised to the exponent. With parentheses, all of it would be. So 7 is good and A is good. We're going to leave those where they are. Then we're going to move the B to the 4th up. And that's it. So that would be the answer there. All right, let's try some from the last block. And they look hard, but they're not going to be. Let's do 27. We'll start with that. So we got 8 squared, C to the -1, D to the -6, over 5. All right, let's highlight what we need to move. C to the -1 needs moved, and D to the -6 needs moved. So I'm going to rewrite 8 squared stays where it is, and 5 stays where it is. They did not need moved. They're not going to get moved. C to the 1 is going to come down to the bottom, and D to the 6th. The only thing left to do is to clean it up. 8 squared is really a number. 8 times 8. And then I'm going to drop off that 1 to make it look a little neater. We don't really need to write that 1, so I'm not going to. And then we have 8 times 8, which is 64. And that's our final answer. So let's look for it here. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's try, let's do 30. And then the rest of them you can do by yourself. So we have -8 raised to the 2nd power, 5 to the -1, C, D, and 0. Okay. Notice that only the 8 is being raised to the -2. Without the parentheses, that negative is detached. So let's highlight the bottom 2. This right here is going to get moved. And then this is actually going to go to nothing. D to the 0 is going to be a 1. So I'm going to move some things. This negative is going to be a -1 on top. I'm going to detach it. Then the 8 squared is going to come down. The C is going to stay. And a D to the 0 is actually a 1. So I'm just going to write a 1. And then 5 to the 1st power is going to come up. So notice 8 to the -2 changed to 8 to the +2. 5 to the -1 changed to 5 to the +1. But this negative right here, because it wasn't in parentheses, it detaches itself, and it really is a -1. So we're going to clean up. -1 times 5 is -5. 8 squared, which we just did up here, is 64. And then C times 1, of course, is just C. I'm going to rewrite it and put the negative out front like they would. And our answer is -5, or -5/64 C. Divided by C, really. But okay, I see it. The answer is right here. All right, I want you to try some by yourself. You feel free to use a calculator. I think you're going to need it with the exponents. And if you don't know how to use the calculator with the exponents, please ask and I'll show you some shortcuts.